Hi, this is international psychic medium Susan Schueler. Welcome to my show, MidLife Conversations. Today's guest is Lauri Wierzbicki. Hi, Lauri.
Hi, Susan. How
Thank
are
you.
you?
I'm good, and thank you for being here. Today's topic, we will be talking not only about the loss of your daughter, Rachel, but we're also going to be talking about domestic violence. So, this is a very serious interview that we're doing today, but I think this is a message that needs to be told. So, like I said, Lauri, I'm appreciative of your bravery for being here because I know this isn't easy. So let's start at the beginning. So just tell our audience, viewers, our listeners, a little bit about your daughter, Rachel.
Okay. Well, Rachel was 22 when she passed, and she was a ball of energy, tons of light and positive energy around her. She would burst into a room. Oh, she if you were if she talked to you, you were friends with her forever. She was just that type of person. Tons of fun. She was like the modern day I Love Lucy, I'd say. She was just so much fun and a little klutzy and very artistic and a lot of fun. She was a lot of fun.
And it's funny, I don't know if I told you this. I only met her once because she waitressed at one of the places where we would have reunions when we would go back home. And for our viewers, Lauri and I go all the way back. We've known each other since grammar school. So she's from my hometown. And I just remember saying to my friend Sharon, who was with us when we met your daughter, she is just beautiful. You must be so proud of her. She was just so polite and lovely. I mean, she just exuded beauty, sweet,
The biggest
so much.
heart, the
It's
big,
funny because I see people's auras when I talk to them, and she had so much beautiful yellow energy around her. She was just sunny,
yeah, she was
absolutely
funny,
sunny.
funny,
Yeah,
sunny and funny and a heart of gold.
yeah, absolutely. So, and I know this isn't going to be easy to retell, but if you could take us back to that night in November of 2018 to the night that was ended very tragically, would you just tell us what happened?
Sure. It was a Tuesday night around 10 o'clock. Rachel was getting out off of the birdhouse. It was 10 p.m. She was watching the cats next door. So I always had her on Find Friends because I always had to know where Rachel was 24/7. I just always worried about her. So I got off the couch. I was just finishing an episode of This Is Us. I get off the couch, check my Find Friends. I'm like, oh, she's still at the birdhouse. She'll probably be home in a little bit. And, she was babysitting the cats next door. So that was it. And then I went to bed. But as I was walking up the stairs, like it was about 10:30 by the time I cleaned up the kitchen and tooling around a little bit. My husband went to bed early that night, which he never ever does. It was very, very strange night. So like I said, I was walking up the stairs and I got this feeling like I was going to pass out. I was carrying one of Rachel's little dogs and I got this feeling that I was going to pass out. So I went to the bathroom and I couldn't brush my teeth. My peripheral vision and everything was going. It was just a very, very strange sensation. And I thought to myself, am I getting sick? And I'm like, I don't have time to get sick. My dad was going through chemo and we just sprung him from the hospital just days before. So like, I can't afford to be sick. So I have my electric toothbrush is on a 2-minute timer. So I couldn't even stand up and brush my teeth. I was clutching the faucet, trying to brush my teeth. And like I said, I felt I was going to pass out, throw up, everything all at the same time. So then after I got done with brushing my teeth, it subsided. And I thought, oh, should I take some Tylenol? Or I'm like, no, I'm just going to go to bed. So I laid down and that was at 10:30. And that's when it happened, unbeknownst to me. And then at 5 to 12, the police were at our door and they were ringing and the dogs jumped off the bed and went downstairs. And, it was the Orchard Park police saying that my daughter was involved in a firearms incident and that I had to get to ECMC right now. And I was like, is she still alive? Is she still alive? And they're like, yes, ma'am, she's still alive, but you got to get there. And I'm like, well, because my dad was sick. They're like, is there somebody you could call? And I'm like, well, my dad, I can't call my parents, right? My dad was going through all of that. And, the whole family was going through so much with my dad's, cancer and surgeries. And, he was practically on his deathbed at the time too. So, so we got to the hospital and they brought me into a room and we got there at 12:15. we drove and prayed and drove and prayed. And it was just like, we were just so like, we couldn't believe this was even happening. And when we got to the hospital, they brought us into a room and they wouldn't let me see her. They wouldn't tell me anything. And police were tooling back and forth. And the nurse kept coming in to check on us. It was just very, very eerie, very, very strange. Nobody would tell me anything. And I kept saying, I want to see my daughter. I want to see my daughter. And nobody would let me see her. And then finally I saw the doctor coming down the hall towards me. And my heart just sunk like, oh my God, what is he going to tell me, you know? And he said to me, he goes, he knew right away that I was the mom. So I must have, because my sisters ended up joining us in the hospital, in the hospital. And he said, he goes, I'm sorry, we did all we could to save your daughter. I go, no, I go, what do you mean? He goes, your daughter died. And I'm like, no, my daughter didn't die. You got the wrong person. I'm like, no, my daughter's Rachel Jane Wierzbicki, you know, she didn't die. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And then I didn't understand, like I couldn't comprehend what he was saying. Next thing you know, the police were coming in the room and they got a suspect and all that stuff. And I was like overwhelmed by everything, overwhelmed. It's
Oh my God.
unbelievable. Still out of body experience, you know?
Right. I can't even wrap my head around that. And I think it is interesting when you look at the bond between a mother and a child, when you say you got that lightheaded, like really like something was really wrong. Was that right around the time the incident occurred?
Yes. And it was very, very strange because in my mind, because I had felt that, I thought that's when she had died. But I didn't even know until after her funeral, when I got the death certificate in the mail, I had the wrong date on all the obituary cards because I said it was the 27th and it was really the 28th because she died at 12:20. It's almost like she waited for us to get to the hospital because it was 12:20, that 12:15 we got there, and 12:20 she was finally pronounced.
So you were not able to see her alive when you did get to the hospital?
No.
Okay.
No, and they told me that she kept going into cardiac arrest, and when it happened, she was with two of her friends. And, you know, they told me what had happened. It happened right in front of two of her friends. And when Rachel fell, they got out of, the one was already out of the car anyways. And she said that she rolled Rachel over, and Rachel looked at her and her friend was saying, come on, Rachel, we got to get out of here. And she's like, I can't feel my legs. And then she looked at her and she goes, I feel like I'm floating. And she closed her eyes. So I think that's when I think that was at 10:30, and I think she was running home to me. I feel like she was running home to me.
Absolutely, because honestly, what you described, Lauri, was what happens when spirit gets really close to us. You will sometimes, I've got goosebumps as I'm saying this, so I know I'm right. It's almost like it takes your breath away, and you'll get like a very lightheaded sensation, hands down. So funny, I can feel Rachel here with us as we're talking. Oh, I could cry right now as I say that.
She's amazing. But so in my mind it was the 27th that she passed, even though.
So if I can ask, what were the circumstances? And I'm sure you probably pieced everything together as you went. So what actually happened? What got her into this situation?
Well, she was only dating this guy for 5 months. That's it. Only a 5-month relationship. And the relationship before that was pretty violent. Before that, she was beaten. I mean, she would come home with black eyes, you know, bruises, fat lips, you know, and finally got her out of that relationship. So I thought she was doing good. And she met this other guy. We got her out on June 21st of the last relationship. She met this guy on June 24th. And she was always she liked the bad boy. And she liked the person that she could try and change. You know what I mean? She was always a helper, always saw the good in everybody. She really, truly did. And she never thought that anybody would be wicked. And, you know, so when she was dating this guy, he did a lot of mental abuse. There was no physical, but a lot of mental. And that's what, you really don't see that, right? I mean, she would come home and I would say, Rachel, let's all 4 of us go out to dinner. And she'd be like, Mom, he doesn't want to meet any of the family. Because I'm like, all right, so he's not, you know, like that. You know what I mean? Maybe once he gets really, really serious with her, he'll want to meet us. So I didn't really think that was a huge, giant red flag.
So you didn't know him very well at all then?
Nope, I wiggled in on their date one time. That's it. Because of course, I had her on Fine Friends. So I knew exactly where she was. She was at Riverworks one night. And I went and I sat right in between them. And I was just talking to both of them. And he was like this with me. He didn't want to know nothing about me. Very, very weird. Very, very
Wow.
weird. I'm like, you are. I go, Rachel, get rid of him. I go, you are so different. I go, you have lots of friends, lots of family. You're a ball of light. I go, he doesn't want to get to know you, your family, your friends. Just get away. I go, that's a red flag. I kept telling her, that's a red flag. So it was a challenge for her, right?
Right. So then how did she get to be there that night? So she must have been at work. Like you said, she was at work beforehand.
Yeah, she was at work beforehand. On Sunday, she saw it was Friendsgiving. She had Friendsgiving at her house on that previous Sunday, and of course she invited him. He didn't come with all of her friends, and then she went over to his house after Friendsgiving. So that was on Sunday night. Monday morning, we had to take her to get her car done, and I called her in the morning. I said, "Do you want me to bring you to your car?" And she goes, "Oh no, I can't even say his name." She goes, "S is going to take me," and I said, "Okay, Dolly." And then a few hours later, she called me and she goes, "Mom, he did it to me again. Don't ever say his name again. He broke up with me again. He doesn't want to see me." So that was on Monday. And she was feeling pretty low on, Monday night into Tuesday. And then on Tuesday, she went to work and I don't know if I believe that, no, I'm not going to say that. I don't know. This is all hearsay, but she went over there because he had contacted her or whatever. And then he said, "Oh, that wasn't for you," kind of a thing. Like it was that gaslighting. It was that power. It was that. So her and her friends were going out, her friends met her at the birdhouse. And then their friend said, "Rachel, we're not letting you go over there by yourself because you're going to blow us off, because you're going to end up staying with him and you're going to stiff us." So she went over there.
But it's not like they were actually afraid of him. Her friends weren't afraid of him at this point.
Right. Nobody was afraid of him. Nobody would have thought that. He came out of, like her friends did say, he came out of, they got to the apartment. He lived in a double, and she got out of the car, ran around to the front, up the front stairs, and her friend opened the car door and said he's coming around the back. So he was coming around the back of the house with a gun. And their friends didn't think it was a real gun. Like, who comes out of their house with a real gun?
Right.
And so she went to hug him, and he pushed her down and put the gun in her face. And she said, "Do you think I'm afraid of a gun in my face?" And she stood up and she slapped him across the face and walked away and kicked his car. And that's when he started shooting at her 3 times.
So he shot at her as she was walking away.
She was retreating, and it was all outside. She was retreating. I mean, he was just a macho guy that just wanted to take care of business on his own.
Oh, this makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you and I've tapped into him before, and that was exactly how it came through for me. It was like he was trying to do a power play.
Yep.
And it definitely felt like that. And it's so sad because people who are beautiful, sensitive, open-hearted people tend to attract manipulators.
Yes.
And it's like he just feels dirty and heavy anytime I've tapped into him. And the interesting part is, like, with your daughter, when I tap into her, she still is like, I refuse to think badly about people, even though this happened.
I know.
It reminds me of the quote from Anne Frank: "In spite of everything, I still believe people are good."
Yes. Yes.
It's just that type of a girl. So, oh my gosh. Okay. So did the police come? Did they take him away? What happened then?
Yeah. The police came and they took him away, and the police report said murder intent. So right now we are still awaiting trial, and yeah, the trial's not even scheduled yet. So he's still, because of COVID, everything is backed up, and yeah.
Now,
he's had attorneys after attorneys.
So are they saying that this was premeditated? Is this like, what are the charges he's up for?
The charges are murder intent, murder in the second degree. You can't do first degree in New York State because it's not a police officer or a judge or something. They reserve that for murder in the first degree like that. So second degree is like for civilians. And so, yeah, second degree, which is 25 to life in prison.
And he's still being held.
Yes, he's
because
still
I
being
remember
held.
there was a time they actually let him out on bail. Is that correct?
Yes, there is. He was out for 9 days. It was the worst time of my life. I'm like, you
Disgusting.
really don't want somebody like that out in the public. I mean,
No.
somebody who's just going to shoot you for kicking your car. It's like, you don't want somebody like that out in the
Yeah.
public. That's for sure.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Now, I know you said you only met him that once, but were there any warning signs that would have alerted anybody in the family that this guy was this volatile?
Nope, not at all. It was so bizarre. The only thing, like I said, I mean, when I look back on it now, like I kept telling her about the red flags, how he didn't want to meet the family and that, and he controlled her. Like the one time she was, there might have been others, but one specific time she was going out on another date. And she told him, and I'm like, don't tell him you're going on a date, you know? So he got angry with her for going on a date. And he said, she goes, well, if you're not going to commit to me, I'm going to go out, you know, and he said, well, Rachel, if it's up to committing with you or, you know, you going out with other people, I guess we'll commit. So it was kind of like that. I mean, he just didn't want anybody else to have her. But
Wow.
yeah. So I said,
Wow.
Rachel, just get out. But she really had high hopes. This guy had a job, a car, you know, so she just thought she struck gold, you know, because the boyfriend before didn't have a car, didn't have a job, you know.
Oh my
So
gosh. And it's so sad because she was just such a beautiful human being. You could just feel this heart. It was just such a lovely person.
yeah, she,
Whew. So,
he had the best and he threw it all away. She
how
would have
has,
done it.
I mean, this is okay. First of all, I always say the loss of a child, there's just nothing like it.
No.
So, how has this grief affected not just you, but your husband, your son, the rest of the family? How are you guys dealing with this?
Yeah, so you don't move on, you just move forward. And you know, our whole lives were turned upside down. It was always the four of us. I have a son. Rachel was my firstborn, Ryan was my second. They're only 19 months apart or 24 months apart. My sister's 19 months apart, but very, very close. And it was always going to be, you know, Rachel and Ryan after we passed. So I feel so sorry for my son because, you know, he doesn't have that sibling and you know, he's going to be left alone when, you know, who knows what's going to happen. That's what it's taught me. It's taught me that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. You know, the way you see life today isn't guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in life. And you just have to, through family, faith, and friends, if I didn't have those three, I have nothing. And I just feel so bad for people that don't believe and don't have the faith. And it's, yeah, that's what keeps me going. Because, like I said, our whole world was turned upside down. Everything changed. I still feel like I'm living outside of my body. I still feel that way. Like
Yeah,
I don't think I'm ever gonna feel whole again. I
yeah,
don't. I don't see it. I don't.
yeah. You hear that a lot with parents. Now, are you doing any kind of support group? Did you go to therapy?
We did go to therapy for a year, and you know, a little bit of sertraline every single day, a little bit of medicine every day, and but that's about all we've done. And I, you know, I think about the support groups. I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I mean, you
And
know,
everybody, and that's the thing I've noticed about grief. Everyone handles grief differently. And
yeah,
you just have to be able to embrace what works for you.
right. And what I do have now is my new child. Well, you know, my additional child, and I just Rachel's just taken a different form, and Rachel's taken a different form in the Rachel Warrior Foundation. Okay,
Okay,
so
you have to, okay, so you have to tell, because this is what this makes my heart sing when something tragic happens, but something good comes from this. So
yes.
tell our audience about Rachel's Warriors.
Yes, I will. So when she passed, people were, of course, asking what they can do, donation, blah, blah, blah. And we did work with the Family Justice Center over the summer to get her a restraining order from the previous relationship, you know, the year she passed, that 2018. So when people were asking me, I said, make donations to the Family Justice Center. So she got like stacks and stacks of donations. They would like the amount of love, outpouring of love for Rachel was unbelievable. It took 3 hours to get into her funeral. They said that was the biggest funeral next to a police officer that the funeral parlor had ever seen. So she
Oh,
was loved by everybody. It's just a testimony of how she acted and treated people, and everybody just loved her. But so like I said, all the outpouring of love and the money that was coming in the Family Justice Center. So I'm like, you know what? We should really start something in Rachel's memorial for this. So we thought of, scholarship stuff like that. Well, we had a birthday party bash. She passed in November. The following June, we had a big giant birthday party for her. There was like 463 baskets. Over 1,200 people came to it. It was just super, super big. So we're like, we got to do something. Rachel can really make an impact. I always knew she was going to do something great with her life. I just didn't think it was going to be postpartum through me. I really didn't think that, but it has really, like, we've raised over $100,000 already. Yep. And we got her foundation incorporated in April 19th on none other than Dingus Day. How apropos for my Polish princess, right?
I was going to say, probably most people listening to this don't know that. That's the day after Easter.
Yeah, yes, that's right. It's a big Buffalo tradition, almost like St. Patrick's Day,
Exactly.
But, yeah, so it's been wonderful. And in the beginning, helping people wasn't so we'd raise a lot of money for these people that are like, in domestic situations and their families. We send beds, and we just support, we pay for hotel bills for people, and we've saved a lot of people so far, and made some quite generous donations to some of like Haven House and Family Justice Center. And so it's been good. And in the beginning I was like, it still doesn't bring back my daughter,
Right.
but I'm starting to see now that I'm really helping, because people are like, we didn't know you existed, and we're so thankful. We didn't know people were like you out there, and so it's good. And Rachel would be, smiling down on me.
Absolutely. And it's so funny because I know that we did, I kind of connected Rachel to you the one time I was writing up the question. She came and sat right next to me. She was a hoot. She came up, sat right next to me, and she was playing with my dog at the same time. At one point she started braiding my hair with her hair. I'm like, she's a kick. And I did ask you if that's something she would have done. And you were like, absolutely.
Absolutely. She always played with everybody's hair. She'd be sitting next to somebody and just playing with their hair, or like her friends, at work, she'd go up and she'd braid their hair.
Yes, it was funny. And she was like braiding it together. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go with this. Cause spirit people, it's like, they do things like that, but
yeah, totally her.
Excuse me. But could you give us the website for Rachel's Warriors? Do you have that?
Sure. It's www, whatever. It's just Rachel, RACHAEL, Warrior, WARRIOR Foundation.org. It's a .org, and it's all one word, Rachel Warrior Foundation. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Venmo. So we're on all of those. And we have our website. So, feel free to reach out.
And I would also like to share the domestic violence hotline number right now. So I'm just going to give this to anyone who may be having issues with this. The number is 1-800-799-7233. The thing that blows my mind is domestic violence is so widespread. And I don't think most of us are aware at how widespread it is. It really knows no boundaries, no socioeconomic boundary. Right. And it can happen to anyone. I know, just from my standpoint, I recently read for a client, a living client, who was choked almost to death by her boyfriend. She had to pretend she was dead and go limp for him to leave. And he did maybe a year jail time. I also read for somebody who one of their spirit people came through, and the person in spirit died because she was pushed out the window by a boyfriend. So, I mean, things like this, it's not that this happens to other people.
Right.
That's why I think the work that you guys are doing is just so important. Yeah. So, do you have any advice for people who might have a loved one who's in a toxic relationship that they think could possibly go violent? I mean, like in your situation, you didn't even think it could go violent, but what advice would you give to someone?
I would give the advice of like, stay in contact, and don't ever, because the people in that situation feel like it's their fault, and I feel like people judge domestic violence. Like, why didn't they get out? Why did they stay? To people who aren't in that situation, you got to have a little bit of empathy for them, because they truly believe they can fix these people and there is a way out. And that's the biggest thing. It's like such a stigma, like where people think that they just don't understand. Why don't people leave? It's not easy. So you have to like really reach out to that person, be their support, listen to them, help them see how important they are and how beautiful they are, and that they don't need this person in their life.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me now on a spiritual level. I know like the empaths of the world, like your daughter, the people who feel other people's emotions, they're like magnetically attracted to those narcissists that are the manipulators. It is just like the weirdest thing that you see time and time again. And those manipulators, they know how to push the buttons. Like you said, the gaslighting, all of those sort of things, and they can just work these people. And it's sad because they go for the people who, like I said, are so open-hearted. And Rachel is definitely an amazing example of that. And when I read for Rachel the last time when she was doing the braiding the hair, I thought it was so sweet the way she said, "I'm so proud of my mom." And it's like she puts you up on a pedestal. She really does. And I think that the relationship between the two of you, you almost showed up more like sisters. There was just this beautiful friendship between the two of you. But I feel like what she's saying is if like my passing could help to save, and I really feel like, and I think I did mention this to you, she wants you to have like real kind of close personal conversations with girls, young women who might not understand that this can happen. Yes. And I really feel like she's like, you can make such a difference. And she's just so proud of you because of that.
Thank you.
She's just lovely, just lovely. So, Lauri, I just want to thank you for being on our show today. Truly, I know this wasn't easy to talk about. And I'd like to thank all of our viewers and our listeners for being here as well. And I'd like to leave you with this thought. Although our stories are all unique, our experiences are what unify us. And we are all one. And I don't want us to ever forget that. And I'm just going to leave that with you. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Susan. I appreciate it. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been Midlife Conversations with psychic medium Susan Schueler. Thanks for joining us. Do you have a story to tell? A conversation of sorts? A midlife conversation? Feel free to check out my website at mediumsusan.com and click on Midlife Conversations. Until then, to paraphrase Carl Jung, if we have nothing else to create, then perhaps we create ourselves.